Happy holidays, everyone. I'm your host, Ken Johnson. So today we're doing another director's cut video. Back during the summertime, I had done a smoked turkey and it took off like gangbusters. And with the holidays, a lot of people like to cook turkeys. This is normally the time of year when people traditionally cook turkeys. Uh, and so I figured I would go ahead and do this director's cut to give you some ideas for your upcoming holiday bird. In a medium-sized pot, I've got 8 cups or half gallon of water, and I'll be adding 2 cups of salt. Alright, this is first cup of salt. Here's the second cup of salt. Now I'm going to use a 1/4 cup of sugar. I'm going to throw in 4 bay leaves, an 1/8 cup of herbes de Provence, and 1/8 cup of dehydrated onion, minced onion. Okay, this will boil for about 3 minutes and then I'll turn it off and let it rest. This right here is a 5-gallon bucket that I got from Harbor Freight. It is food safe. I'm going to fill it with 1.5 gallons of water and ice. There we go. Now we're going to add in our brine mixture. I'm cleaning out the pot with about 2 cups of water extra. Alright, we'll give this all a good stir. Alright, here is our bird. Paid $18.13 before taxes for a 19-pound, 12-ounce bird. I'm going to get all this off and put it into the bucket. Alright, the frozen bird is in here. I'm going to put a plate on top of it with some cans and then put the lid on it. I know that there is a giblet bag in here, so once it thaws out a little bit, I'll remove the giblet bag. That way we can get some better penetration, but for right now, this bird is going to be quickly defrosting in this water. He's going to stay overnight. It will stay cool enough. They'll be fine. And then after we do that, we'll, if I need to add ice, I'll add ice to keep it safe and cool. And then we'll put it onto the smoker tomorrow. So I just want to step in and talk about what we're doing here. So a brine is used especially with birds, any type of fowl, especially fowl with very light dark meat or a lot of white meat. So I'm not talking about ducks or goose or anything of that nature. I'm talking more about things like chicken, turkeys, pheasant. You need to brine them, and the reason why is that salt gets in there and it causes the meat to be more moist, and so you'll hold on to the moisture a lot better. That's what I'm trying to do. A brine, you can use whatever you wish for your seasonings. I went with more traditional French style brine, but you could do any type of brine you wanted. You could put orange peels or whatever. The bird is not going to absorb a lot of those flavors. It's mostly going to be a lot of the salts that's going to be soaking up. Now, reason why I used a frozen turkey, first of all, frozen turkeys are cheaper than fresh turkeys. The other reason for this is that the frozen turkey will usually lasts longer in a brine because it's defrosting, so you don't have to put as much ice, therefore you're not diluting out your salt as much. And as it thaws, it will start absorbing the salt, and that actually creates a precipitating event where the turkey starts defrosting faster and absorbing the brine better. And so that's what I was trying to do, is to create that precipitating mechanism for absorbing the brine as best as possible. Time to make some compound butter. I've got 2 sticks of salted butter. Each stick is 4 ounces or 113 grams. So that's going to be 8 ounces or 223 grams of salted butter. Okay? And on the American sticks of butter, you can see that they got it listed that 8 tablespoons makes up a stick, and that you get a breakdown that 4 tablespoons is a half or quarter cup, and then you got a third cup. So it's telling you all these nice little things. That's what I love about American butter. But we're going to use these 2 sticks or 8 ounces of butter. Okay, to our salted room temperature butter, I got some ranch dressing powder. It's 1 teaspoon. Next, we're going to use Cavender's all-purpose Greek seasoning. So 1 teaspoon of Cavender's going in. This right here is a teaspoon of garlic going in. This right here is 1 tablespoon of onion powder going in. Because the Cavender's already has black pepper in it, I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. That's it. That's our seasoning blend. Now we're going to mix this up. The granulated garlic, the onion powder, the Cavender's, the cayenne, the ranch powder. We're going to mix all that up. The butter's already salted, so we don't have to worry about anything because you already got salt from the Cavender's, you got salt from the ranch powder, you got salt from the butter, and then now we got the pepper in there. So that red pepper, cayenne pepper, it kind of brings flavors to the front of the mouth, whereas the black pepper brings flavor to the back of the mouth, and so it kind of rounds out the tasting of things. Alright, so what's going to happen, we're fixing to roll this up. American butter has more milk fat, or not milk fat, but milk product in it. It's got a lower milk fat than European, British butter, Irish butter, French butter, anything of that nature. So that means that all these seasonings will be hydrating over time. So by doing this the night before, we can actually allow that butter to get infused with more flavor. Right now it's got a good flavor. It's salty, got a little bit of heat on the back end, not too much. All those seasonings are playing along very nicely. It's very powerful, but it's got to season a whole bird. So this is going to be spread out over a whole bird as we put this under the skin. And of course we already have the bird being soaked in our brine. So we're going to take this, put this in some parchment paper, make a roll. I'll show you how that's kind of done. And then we'll meet back tomorrow and do the bird. Alright, this is just a piece of parchment paper here. Okay, so we got it right now into a big pile. Now I've got it rolled over the bottom, and I'm just going to kind of roll it around, roll it up. Now what I'm going to do is just kind of take the ends and wrap them up tight so it's almost like a Tootsie Roll or some type of rolled candy. There you go. Rolled up like a little thing of candy. Twist one end one way, twist the other end another way, and that allows you to provide torque so that you can squeeze it and get it formed like you need to. This will go into the refrigerator, and like I said, it'll sit overnight, and those flavors will develop overnight and only get better. So before anybody dings me on my conversions and math and everything, I have a condition called aphasia. And so sometimes I will say things that I don't mean to say. And at the time I was looking at 113 grams on the butter, and I was doing the math in my head, which should be 226 grams. And I ended up saying 223. A lot of people on my original video ding me on that. I understand. Yes, I did misspeak there. It was not intentional. It was correct in the recipe. It was just I did some math error in my head because of the aphasia. I said one thing, but I meant another. As far as the compound butter, the reason why you do a compound butter is that it's another way of inducing some additional flavors into the bird, but also creating moisture. So that fat is going to help with a lot of the moisture because breast meat, things of that nature can be extremely dry. Uh, this was a little bit saltier than I normally go for, but I was dealing with a much bigger bird. You can go a little lighter. For instance, if you had a smaller bird than what I had, feel free to go maybe half on the seasonings. If you're somebody that doesn't like a lot of salt, um, but you just have to realize that whatever seasonings that you put in that herb butter is about the only thing that's going to go into that bird, especially in a smoking method. So just be aware of that. But you could do it any number of ways. You could put, if I was going to do something like orange peel or something like that, that's where I would put it in the herb butter. A lot of the seasonings that you want to have the bird taste of, that's where I would put it in the butter. Uh, that brine, you can get some flavor, but I highly recommend using the compound butter. Put most of your flavorings in that, and the two together create for an extremely moist bird. So last night, probably about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, I checked on the bird. It was still mostly frozen. I put it in about 6 o'clock at night. So that kind of lets you know this water's still cold, 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 even though that there's fat now. There's a fat top on it. But the bird, I spun it around, took out the giblet bag. I couldn't take out the neck yet because it was so frozen. Tried to open up a little bit better. Spun it around. You can see the bird is just sunk down into the water. That's letting you know that the brine has finally started taking hold of the bird. And all it's doing is seasoning the bird so that it'll stay nice and juicy during the smoking process. Now it's time to take it out. Alright, so here's the bird in all its glory. And so what I'm going to do, because I just don't have enough room on my grill the way it's set up, or my smoker, it's a smoker grill. It's homemade. I didn't make it, I inherited it. It's something I got when my father passed away. So there's flaws with it, but it's what I got. I'm going to take this wing off, so I'm going to actually cut through here. There's a cut around here. There's a joint right in here. Cut around. I'm going to take this backbone out here, and when I take this backbone out, then that's going to allow me to get some air into the cavity so that the breast can be cooked. Spin over. What I'll do is I'll cut around here. Take this leg off. I'll take this little plastic piece off. That will expose just the breast here. So I'm going to have 5 pieces on the smoker. The breast is going to cook a lot faster than the dark meat, so this will allow, hopefully, to have most of the turkey cooking at about the same time, since it's not all one giant piece. That's the other thing. If you can take it where it's not one giant piece, that does help out tremendously. So I'm going to get this cut up. I'll be back in a minute. One of the things I'm probably going to do is on this portion here, this right here is both the thigh and the leg, and there's a joint right there. When you bend the leg, you can feel it, and you cut into it, and then that will allow me to separate leg from the thigh. So I may actually get 7 pieces. I may do that. I'll make a decision later on, let you know. I just wanted to show you something about butchering a bird. So you see how there's a little seam that runs, that if you take the leg and pull it, well, that's what I'm doing here. I'm taking the leg and pulling it and cutting it, and it just has a nice little separation right there. Everybody worries so much about butchering a animal, but it really isn't that hard. Here it is all cut up. I did cut the thighs from the legs, and then what I did is I also made sure to remove any feathers, and I took my fingers and separated the flesh from the skin so that we can now add our compound butter. This right here is our compound butter, so I'm going to cut this up into slices, probably about, I don't know, at least 10 slices, so that the breast gets enough butter and the smaller pieces like the leg and all that, they at least get a pat of butter. Tell me that don't look good right there. I've already tried a little piece of it. Man, does it have a ton of flavor. If you aren't brining your birds and then putting compound butter under the skin, what are you doing? Okay, so you can actually see the butter under the skin, and I've just broke up the pats and just kind of put in there. The wings are a little bit more difficult to work with. There's not that much meat to begin with. I don't put a lot of butter with my thighs because really they're already pretty flavorful. It's the breast that matters the most, but I try to give everything a little bit of love so it all tastes good. And now what I'm going to do is put up the backbone and the neck and the giblets, and I'll probably make something with that in another episode. And then I'm going to pat all this dry, salt and pepper it. That's probably not much salt, just a little bit of salt to make the bark stick. A little bit of pepper, not much black pepper. Very light seasoning because most of the flavoring is in the butter and in the brine. So then I'm going to go ahead and start the fire. And just so you can see, that's the backbone and the neck. The neck had ice on it when I took it out, so that water was cold, so all the people freaking out saying, "Oh my God, that ain't the proper way to defrost turkey." Well, I wasn't defrosting turkey, I was brining a turkey, and the brine prohibited bacteria growth, or at least limited it. And then after doing that, it stayed cold. It stayed well below the normal temperatures for bacterial growth, which is 40 degrees, so it was below 40 degrees. And so now I'm putting this up. Gonna make me another dish with this later. You'll see that maybe in another future episode, and try to get this bird onto the pit. All right, let's talk a little bit more about compound butter and skin seasoning and all that. All right, so when you're seasoning to flesh, that there's no barrier to keep the flesh from absorbing the seasoning. Okay? Makes sense, right? With birds, we normally we cook the bird with the skin on. And so when you're adding a bunch of seasonings onto the bird's skin, that skin is a barrier, and it's keeping the seasoning from getting into the bird. Now, we did try one method, which I told you doesn't do that great, which is brining. The next method is the compound butter. That's where you got skin to seasoning ratio. And that butter is also, not only is it carrying water-soluble compounds from the seasonings, but it's also carrying fat-soluble. So you got different types of seasoning compounds, flavors that are either water-soluble, fat-soluble, or alcohol-soluble. We used no alcohol this time, so therefore it's bringing in all the fat and water-soluble flavors it can bring into the bird. And it's going straight to the meat. And that skin is actually helping to act kind of like as a, not as a pressure cooker, but as a cooking regulator to assist with that dispersion of seasonings. Now, why are we salt and peppering the outside skin? Different matter. You have what's known in smoking as bark. And so that is the smoke seasoning. So you always want to make sure you got dry meat with a good amount of salt and pepper. And then that helps get that skin where it gets a nice color, gets a nice flavor. And because I separated the meat from the skin, and then that all melts out and everything, it helps render out that skin so you get crispier skin as well, which is kind of hard to get in smoked applications. So that's always a nice little treat when you get a little bit of crispy skin there. Alright, so this is the smoker grill that I inherited when my father passed away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay some pre-burnt coals and things of that nature on that side. Then I'm going to do one on this side. And then I've got some layered in the pit as well. This right here is nothing more than some used cooking oil that I've soaked into some paper towels and then put in the microwave for a few seconds. I place the paper towels on the coals, or the bottom layer of coals. After layering some coals, not many, this just lump hardwood charcoal. After layering that, a thin layer on top, I'm going to set on fire. This is just to get those coals going so I can add more to the top. Now there's a ton of ways you can set a fire. That's just how I'm doing it today. I'm just playing around with different ways. So you'll see the smolder and everything. That's fine. You'll see it catch up on fire. So we got plenty of heat. And I'm just kind of letting this build a little slower than what I normally do. The fire pit does a much better job of getting started than the grill part does. I will say that. Alrighty, so what I did is I scraped off the grill. I put just about 5 or 6 hot coals in there, just scattered out, and put a few lump charcoal on top that's not cooked, just to kind of, or not heated up so that it'll get heated up. All this is now nice and heat. It's real hot on one side, mildly hot here. Got a good cold spot here for the breast. I'm put some thighs, legs, all that around here and get them cooked. Have the wings over here so they don't get cooked as much, because white meat cooks faster. I'm now going to put a piece of wood. Well, actually, I'm going to season up the meat next. So what we're doing is talking about heat dispersion. All right. So every grill that you have, every smoker you have, is going to have issues. It's going to have flaws. It's going to have mechanics that are not working in your favor. And mine is no different. And so even though I have a fire pit, I have a firebox, it is so far away from the actual grill mechanism that a lot of the heat is lost. And so it's really for cold smoke applications. It's not for hot smoke. There is not a big giant diameter canister where the grill is. And so therefore that means that I've got a shorter distance between the coals and the meat. And that creates another fundamental issue with it. And so what I was trying to do is to create areas of hot and cold so that when I'm smoking my bird, then I'll be able to move it around, knowing that white meat cooks faster than dark meat, and knowing that big pieces cook at a different rate than smaller pieces. And because I cut up the bird, I've got to take all this into account. For Thanksgiving, you'd probably want to do a whole bird. No matter what, you still got to take into account hot spots, cold spots. Means that you might need to turn your bird over. You might want to try cook it on the breast for a little bit first, or after you're done cooking the bottom part of the bird, flip it over and cook the top. That you'll have to adjust, and that's where a thermometer is going to be your best friend. Just realize that your breast is normally going to be done first before the thighs and the legs. So therefore, you may want to take that into consideration. Make sure that you got heat where it needs to be so that everything's cooking at about the right temp and about the right time. Cooking a whole bird or cooking different cuts of meat from a bird is very difficult, but it's very doable. You just have to realize certain aspects of it, that dark meat cooks slower than white meat. Big pieces cook at a different rate than smaller pieces. It's not that difficult. You just have to be aware of what's going on. All right, that's seasoned up on the grill. Now I'm putting some wood into the pit here, and then we're going to just close her up. All right, we'll see you in a couple hours. Okay, it's been rocking at a steady 175 for about an hour. It finally went on at about 2 o'clock. And you can see all that butter is gone. It's taken a nice smoke color to it. And we're just going to let this smoke away. My wife, she's needing her car service. I'm going to go get the oil changed real quick. I'll be back. She's at the house, so if something happens, I got her checking in on it at least. So we'll be back in a little bit, check in on it. Alright, it's 5 o'clock. The temperature never got above 175. So what I did is I've got used my little blowtorch here to get the wood a little hotter, let some air get to it. Bumped it up to where it's now cooking at just below 225 degrees, and that's going to help this bird cook along a little bit better. Alrighty, it is about 5:30 and these are looking good. Not quite done yet. Went down a little bit on the temp, but we'll get there. Alright, that's looking good. Well, here we are. Sorry about any noise. Neighbors weed eating at 8 o'clock at night. But anyway, so don't worry about these. Ignore those. That'll be for a future episode. But these are temped and ready to come off, and man, they are good. But it's 8 o'clock, which means we're not going to eat any tonight. So I'll put these up, heat them up in the oven tomorrow. All they're going to do is get better, and then we'll have them tomorrow night for supper. So see you then. All right, so that's actually a pretty good little tip right there. Now, of course, I did this summertime, so that was like 8 o'clock. In Florida, it's still kind of bright around 8 o'clock. But if you will do your turkey a day before and then put it in the refrigerator, then come Thanksgiving, the following day, you can take it out, put it in the oven, heat it up. Okay? So all those flavors have had more time to meld, and it's only going to get better. And so that's also a nice little way to make sure that you're not just absolutely rushed and going nuts. You can relax a little bit. So I would say put the turkey on, Tuesday night, something like that. Take it out Wednesday, put it in the refrigerator, and then heat it up, last hour before the meal. And that's going to make your Thanksgiving, or if you're doing it for Christmas, make your Christmas, whatever the event is, it'll make it so much easier on you if you just do it the day before and put it in the refrigerator and then heat it up as you need it. And really and truly, once it's cooked, this bird freezes well. So if you wanted to do it ahead of time, you could do it as much as a week or two ahead of time without any suffering of flavor. It lasts for actually months in the refrigerator, or not refrigerator, but the freezer. But you always want the best flavor. So after about a week or two, flavors start to diminish a little bit in the freezer. So I wouldn't go too much further than that if I was doing it for a crowd. But if I was just doing it to put up stuff or have something when I don't feel like cooking, definitely go ahead, do it ahead of time. You know, put it in the freezer. It'll be fine, especially if you use a vacuum sealer.
Alrighty guys, this is my plate. I've got the breast meat with some roasted vegetables. The wife, my goddaughter, asked me to make stuffing. That's not normally what I would fix with this, but that's what they wanted. Made a quick gravy using the drippings. This turkey has not been in a crutch, meaning I have not wrapped it up in tin foil, and I have not wrapped it up in butcher paper with any type of butter or fat or anything of that nature. It is just as juicy as it can be. And I've got it a little bit cooler than what you normally see on YouTube, because all those juices that pour out, that just makes it dry. So serve your food at a little bit lower temperature, and that way it stays nice and juicy. If you cut it at 170 degrees, 180 degrees, some of them go even higher on YouTube, and you cut it to get those juices pouring out. Yeah, it'll look great on video, but it's not going to stay juicy for long. This is succulent. You can just see all that moisture there. That's what I'm trying to get at there. Then this is the wife's meal. She wants to have thighs, so that's cut up thigh. Of course, it looks awesome to me. I've got the gravy that I made and all that, same as the other. So we're going to go eat. I'm going to say the blessing, eat, and then afterwards I'll do a rundown of what she thinks, what I think, and all that. I may even do that right after we make sandwiches, because one of the best things about having turkey is leftovers and having leftover sandwiches. So I may do that. I may do the wrap up after sandwiches. We'll find out. One good thing about making turkey is that there's always leftovers, and that means sandwiches. For Tasha's sandwich, we're going to do some dark meat on 12 grain bread with mayonnaise. Gonna put a slice of cheese, lettuce, and tomato. There we go there. Me, I prefer just mayonnaise and meat on bread. Not a bad little sandwich for a work week's, snack.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Yeah, that turkey was fantastic. I love it. In fact, for this Thanksgiving, my in-laws have asked me to do a smoked turkey, so I'll be doing a smoked turkey. I'm going to be doing a whole presentation because I think it presents better as whole, but if I was doing it for a barbecue grill out or something like that, go ahead, break it down. It cooks better, it does better, it serves better. But for festive holiday events, definitely just do the whole bird. I would not stuff the bird. Do not stuff the bird. So you will make sure there's plenty of airflow and everything in the bird. But fantastic, always a crowd pleaser. Give this one a shot. I think you will like it. Speaking of giving things a shot, please check out my feather painting with Ken Johnson channel. That's another channel that I have. Also check out my main channel, Ken Johnson. And with that, I wish you happy holidays. I'll see you again next time. Bye.